I'm hoping I'm going to speak and you can hear how grateful Nora is of your perspective, because I don't think we can properly hear Nora speaking. So um, let me introduce myself. My name is Assim Ishaque. I'm an entrepreneur, inventor, and coach based here in Nottingham. I live not far from Robin Hood and the home that was used to film Batman. So I live in good company here. And you're not about Kivanok. I'm definitely a friend of Budapest as I've traveled there many times. I'm going to speak again, and hopefully you can hear me all clearly. Great, fantastic. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and you're going to get to see my little presentation and my words here. So let's do that right away. I This is one of the best events that I'm not attending, and I'm so disappointed I can't be there with you because as a fan of Budapest, I'm sure I would have enjoyed that wonderful location. So let me start off by introducing myself. So, as I said, I'm an entrepreneur. I started my career with HSBC, so in finance, and but got bored of finance and banking and went on an adventure in the corporate sector before setting up my own company in sustainability for the built environment around 18 years ago. And I've been involved with many innovators, and I've helped work on around $2 billion worth of funding, mainly clean technology. Now, clean technology funding is really complicated because it's quite new. It takes a lot more time. It's heavily regulation driven, whereas pharmaceuticals and business and digital investors are really savvy about that. But so clean tech, I believe, is one of the most complicated areas of funding to work in. And I've worked on with billionaire property owners. This is the Trocadero building in the center of London. I helped design a recycling facility, and I raised £9 million of it for myself, but the market had moved on in it, and I had missed the opportunity. In Hungary, I've worked on renewable energy projects, and I've been invited to work on projects with the Inward Investment Department of the government of Hungary as well. So, and then to add to my adventure, I created my own invention. I developed an insulation system which turns old cold homes into beautiful new insulated homes fit for the future, and that will be the subject of Green Deal investment in the future in Europe. And I'm looking at taking that into greenhouse technology, making it out of clear plastic. So along the way, you're asking why am I here for this launch event for Tőkeportál, which is Hungary's first crowdsourced funding, which is such an adventure to be on. Well, I actually, in between inventing a very complicated product, I invented a toy, and in a surprise-winning, award-winning toy called Simrix, and I did it for fun. But we used crowdsourced funding to actually get the project off the ground. I, I know some of you innovators are looking at really complex products, but the lessons that I learned from this simple toy have been really useful for me, because what I learned was that crowdsourced funding is highly democratic. It's a merit-driven platform, and you have to be really clear on what you're offering and who you're offering to. So that was really useful. The other thing is that you have to bring your crowd to the platform, and you have to spend a lot of time building community. And if you can get people excited about your product before you bring it to the platform, it can really be very exciting. So crowdsourced funding is about, building the crowd before you get to the platform. Because if you can build the crowd before you get to the platform, then you're going to have a lot more success. The other thing I learned is that you better have your ducks in a row, which means get everything ready you need to launch. When that funding hits, then you're answerable to the crowd. So, as an entrepreneur and as a mentor now, I teach entrepreneurs about the route from turning an idea into revenue. And it's not as straightforward as the magazines, the journals make out. It's over glamorized as an industry. But if you think about the reality of it, it's not that difficult. It's a real challenge, but it's one that we can overcome. So my lessons to entrepreneurs, oh, you don't see my presentation. Okay. Hopefully you should see. I'm going to stop sharing my presentation. No, you can see my presentation. If not, okay, I'm going to reshare it and hopefully you can see it now. Okay. There, can you see it, Nora? Fantastic. This curve, two wavy lines, I think are the most interesting and useful lessons that innovators need to bear in mind. So if you've got a pen and paper, write down the diffusion of innovation curve, because this is the most exciting part of launching your idea to the real world. Because most people, they go for this, the big in the middle, the center point, the mass market, the big opportunity where all the money is. And that's not really where you should be focusing on. As crowdsourced funded innovators, you're at the beginning of your journey. You're not at the middle of your journey. So you need to focus on the innovators, that tiny speck at the beginning of the curve, that really precise point where people who are willing to take a risk on you without the perfection, without the wonderful packaging, without all the regulations in place, without you being the most experienced team members. You need to excite those innovative people. That's who comes onto crowdsourced funding platforms. You will very rarely find an old billionaire on a crowdsourced funding platform. You will very rarely find established, conservative, wealthy people on crowdsourced funding platforms. You will find people who are much like you and are willing to take a risk. And they want to be part of that journey. So focus on the journey that you're on and target your product, your innovation, your service on the best place to be. What's the minimum viable market that you need to launch your product to? Focus on that. Be really clear about that and have a vision for the future. But be clear on how you're going to make money from the innovators. If you can do that, it's really easy for investors to get excited about you, because believe me, they are already optimistic. They're already seeing the potential if you can tell them where the beginning is. So the experiences that I have are around that reality, and so as a mentor, I'm really clear on what kind of mentor I want to be to innovators, and that is an honest, straightforward, no BS mentor. I've spent far too much time with mentors in my journey that offered me no value, no purpose, no common sense, no sense of reality, and didn't give me that tough, honest hand. They were more interested in me booking them for the next meeting rather than the value they gave me there and then. So think about the commercial process that you're on. You can't do everything with your product. You can't serve everybody with your innovation. Have the phases clear and know where to begin. Intellectual property is crucial because that's what investors need to protect their assets. So be clear on the pathway to intellectual property, but know that it's not always about a patent. A patent isn't the answer to everything. Trade secrets, your process, design registration, trademarks, the expertise you build around the contracts that you have, they're really critical. The relationships that you develop on the platform are the sum of the relationships you develop on the way to the platform. So be really good about that. Work with people that you know and you trust and you like and share your values. And this might seem a bit weird to say this. If you don't like the people you're working with, don't work with them, because business, you spend far too much time in business to actually have a horrible time there. So if you don't see eye to eye with people, you don't share the same values, you can't trust them, then choose not to work with them. And I think business development and sales are something that technology-driven entrepreneurs forget to do sometimes. They believe that their technology is the answer to everything, and it's not. You need to sell that product. You need to persuade other people to pay you for that product. And if you can persuade them to pay, then you will be able to persuade investors to invest. So be really clear about getting some of those validations before you come onto the platform, because that will help you fly. And do not forget to put your feet on the ground and live in reality. Have your ambition, have your vision, have your focus for the future, but know where you are right now, know what's around you, and know who's around you. Be really clear on the starting point, and be clear about that in your story, on why you're doing this, what your big objective is, and where you come from. People buy into your vision and your motivation and energy. So don't forget to include that in your journey. So I travel right now. I travel the world by Zoom and all sorts of video conferencing processes. But I work for the European government. I work for universities around Europe, and I work with some fantastic innovators. My last travel was to Paris at the beginning of this year, but I was in Hungary and Győr and Budapest in autumn of last year. So I'm delighted to be back in this way. If I can be of assistance to you in any way, then you can find me on LinkedIn. Here's my QR code. You can zap me. I also have a podcast where I talk about the reality of the entrepreneurial journey. Enjoy the process of turning your idea into a business. I recommend you enjoy every single step along the way rather than hate the process, hoping that the end bit is going to be fantastic. If you enjoy every step along the day, it'll help you enjoy what you've achieved when you've achieved it. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak, Nora. I wish Tőkeportál every success in being Hungary's first crowdsourcing platform. And what an adventure we're on together. Hopefully I'll see you in Budapest very soon. Thank you very much.